You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your educational journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Ethics and professionalism form the bedrock of trust in cloud security. While technology defines the boundaries of what can be done, ethics defines what should be done. Professionals navigating cloud environments often face decisions that affect confidentiality, integrity, availability, and public trust. In those moments, technical expertise alone is insufficient. Sound ethical judgment ensures choices reflect not just compliance with law, but also accountability to stakeholders and society. Ethical conduct establishes credibility, builds confidence, and sustains reputations across industries. Like medicine or law, cybersecurity is a trust-based profession. Clients, employers, and the public rely on practitioners to act responsibly with sensitive information and critical infrastructure. The purpose of professional ethics in this domain is to provide a framework of principles, codes, and standards that guide behavior when rules are unclear, ensuring decisions remain consistent, defensible, and worthy of trust. Professional ethics in cybersecurity define standards of conduct beyond minimum legal compliance. Laws set the floor, but professionalism demands higher standards that account for judgment, discretion, and stewardship. For example, it may be legal to collect broad datasets for monitoring, but ethical standards demand minimization and proportionality. Professionals are often confronted with gray zones where legality is silent, yet trust and responsibility remain. Ethics fills this gap, requiring choices that safeguard not only organizations but also individuals and society. This expectation mirrors other professions, where adherence to ethical standards is as important as technical skill. Without them, the public risks seeing cybersecurity as purely transactional, eroding confidence. By holding themselves to professional codes, practitioners elevate the field, ensuring it is recognized as a discipline of accountability and stewardship rather than opportunism or unchecked power. The International Information System Security Certification Consortium, commonly known as ISC2, articulates its code of ethics through high-level canons. These canons include duties to society, duties to employers and clients, duties to the profession, and duties to advance and protect the common good. They are deliberately broad, offering guidance across diverse scenarios rather than prescriptive rules. For instance, a canon may obligate professionals to act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. These principles transcend borders and industries, applying equally in small firms and global enterprises. By grounding behavior in these canons, professionals ensure their actions align with the larger purpose of cybersecurity, protecting systems and the people who depend on them. The ISC2 Code of Ethics functions like a compass broad enough to cover varied terrain, but precise enough to keep professionals oriented toward trust and responsibility. Duty of care is a central concept, establishing the expectation that professionals act with the diligence of a reasonable and prudent peer under similar circumstances. It is the standard by which decisions are judged when outcomes are questioned. In cloud contexts, this may involve ensuring encryption is enabled, monitoring is active, or incident response is prepared. Even if a breach occurs, demonstrating duty of care proves the organization and its professionals acted responsibly with available knowledge. It is like a physician adhering to established medical standards. Outcomes may vary, but diligence is evident. Duty of care ensures accountability without demanding perfection. It also empowers professionals to push back when pressured to cut corners, reminding leadership that negligence is not only unwise but potentially indefensible. This concept anchors ethical and legal accountability in practice. Integrity and honesty are non-negotiable pillars of professionalism. In cloud security, this means presenting accurate information in reports, updates, metrics, and audit attestations. Overstating compliance, minimizing risks, or omitting unfavorable details erodes trust and undermines governance. Integrity is not just about avoiding lies. it is about ensuring that representations reflect reality without distortion. For example, if a vulnerability scan reveals significant gaps, integrity requires reporting them fully rather than selectively. Honesty is like the structural integrity of a bridge. Invisible flaws may not collapse it today, but over time, they guarantee failure. By committing to transparency, professionals sustain credibility even under pressure. Integrity ensures that stakeholders, whether auditors, executives, or regulators, make informed decisions based on accurate, trustworthy information, not comforting illusions. Competence and due professional care require professionals to maintain their skills, stay informed about evolving threats, and recognize the limits of their expertise. Cloud environments shift rapidly. Outdated knowledge risks negligence. Continuing professional education, certifications, and engagement in professional communities are not optional. They are part of the ethical responsibility to remain competent. Due care also demands humility, acknowledging when external expertise is required rather than improvising outside one's scope. For instance, a generalist may defer to a privacy officer on data protection law. Competence mirrors pilots, obligations to stay trained, and certified passenger safety depends on currency. In cybersecurity, the stakes are similarly high. Professionals who neglect competence compromise not only themselves, but also the trust of those who rely on their decisions to protect critical assets and data. Confidentiality obligations ensure sensitive information is handled with care. This includes applying need-to-know principles, honoring non-disclosure agreements, and avoiding insider misuse. In cloud, professionals often access privileged data during investigations, migrations, or support. Ethical responsibility dictates that such information be used only for legitimate purposes, never for personal gain or curiosity. Confidentiality breaches erode trust rapidly, damaging relationships with clients, employers, and regulators. The principle is akin to attorney-client privilege. Sensitive matters remain protected to preserve confidence in the system. Confidentiality also extends to organizational knowledge, such as vulnerabilities or incident details, that could harm the enterprise if disclosed inappropriately. Maintaining discretion is not secrecy for secrecy's sake. It is a professional commitment to respect the privacy and integrity of entrusted information. Objectivity and independence require that professionals provide unbiased assessments, free from undue influence or favoritism. Risk assessments, audits, or security recommendations must reflect evidence, not political or financial pressures. In cloud, this may mean reporting risks in a favored provider's configuration, even if leadership prefers to downplay them. Independence does not mean isolation, but maintaining professional judgment that withstands external pressure. It is like refereeing a game. Fairness is undermined if the referee tilts outcomes for one side. Objectivity preserves credibility, ensuring decisions serve the organization and its obligations, not hidden agendas. Independence also supports regulatory defensibility, proving that risk management decisions were reasoned and impartial. Without these qualities, security assessments lose integrity, leaving organizations blind to real risks and exposed to preventable failures. Conflicts of interest occur when personal interests could influence professional judgment. These may arise from financial stakes, outside employment, family relationships, or vendor affiliations. For example, a security professional recommending a cloud product while holding shares in the vendor creates a conflict. Even if judgment remains objective, the appearance of bias damages trust. Conflicts are inevitable in interconnected industries. What matters is how they are identified and managed. Like judges recusing themselves when ties exist, professionals must recognize when impartiality is at risk. Unmanaged conflicts undermine credibility, create legal exposure, and erode stakeholder trust. Acknowledging conflicts is not a weakness. It demonstrates maturity and professionalism, proving that transparency takes precedence over personal gain. Conflict disclosure and management require proactive reporting and clear mitigations. Professionals must declare potential conflicts early, ensuring leaders, clients, or auditors can make informed decisions. Management may involve recusal from certain projects, oversight by independent parties, or written acknowledgments in governance records. For instance, if a consultant has prior ties to a vendor under review, disclosure allows reassignment or monitoring. Documented mitigations prevent later disputes, proving that steps were taken responsibly. This is like a public official declaring financial interests to avoid corruption suspicions. Ethical maturity lies not in avoiding every conflict, an impossible standard, but in managing them openly. By normalizing disclosure, organizations foster cultures where integrity is preserved and suspicion reduced. Without disclosure, even minor conflicts can escalate into reputational crises, undermining both individuals and the profession. Responsible vulnerability disclosure is another ethical cornerstone. Professionals often discover flaws that, if mishandled, could harm organizations or the public. Ethical practice requires following coordinated disclosure processes, reporting to affected parties, allowing time for remediation, and avoiding unauthorized exploitation. In cloud, testing without written authorization can itself create liability or harm. Responsible disclosure balances urgency with responsibility, preventing attackers from exploiting knowledge while ensuring vendors address issues effectively. It is like reporting a structural crack in a bridge. Urgency is required, but shouting in public without notifying engineers risks panic and exploitation. Ethical disclosure reinforces professionalism by proving that technical expertise is used to reduce, not increase, risk. It sustains trust between researchers, vendors, and the public, demonstrating maturity and balancing transparency with protection. Respect for intellectual property is integral to professionalism. This includes honoring software licenses, providing proper attribution, and avoiding unauthorized copying or reuse. In cloud, open-source components, third-party libraries, and vendor APIs form critical building blocks. Misusing them not only breaches legal agreements but undermines community trust. For example, reusing proprietary code without permission or failing to credit open-source contributors violates both law and ethics. Respecting intellectual property is like respecting creative rights in publishing or art. It sustains innovation by rewarding contribution. Ethical professionals model this respect consistently, setting examples for teams and organizations. Intellectual property violations signal not cleverness but immaturity, weakening credibility and exposing organizations to legal and reputational harm. By prioritizing respect and attribution, cybersecurity professionals demonstrate stewardship of both technical and community ecosystems. Fair dealing with vendors reinforces trust in procurement and partnerships. Professionals must avoid kickbacks, improper gifts, or steering decisions for personal gain. Vendor relationships should be governed by transparent evaluation, not private benefit. For instance, recommending a security solution because of incentives from the vendor, rather than its merits, betrays professional responsibility. Fair dealing is like refereeing. Sports decisions must be impartial or the game's integrity collapses. In cloud procurement, stakes are high, involving major contracts and long-term dependencies. Any suspicion of favoritism undermines organizational credibility and exposes professionals to allegations of corruption. Ethical professionals reject personal inducements, documenting procurement processes openly. By doing so, they sustain not only compliance but also public confidence that decisions serve organizational and societal good, not hidden personal agendas. Data ethics demands careful balance between monitoring for security and respecting individual privacy. Cloud operations often involve collecting logs, telemetry, or behavior analytics that touch personal data. Ethical practice requires proportionality, collecting only what is necessary, anonymizing where possible, and securing all data against misuse. For example, monitoring to detect intrusions is legitimate, but retaining unnecessary personal communications is intrusive. Data ethics is like using surveillance cameras responsibly, positioned for safety, not voyeurism. Overreach damages trust, creating reputational and regulatory exposure. By applying minimization and transparency, professionals demonstrate respect for dignity, alongside duty to protect. This balance proves that security and privacy are not mutually exclusive, but interdependent values, essential for sustaining confidence in cloud operations. Evidence integrity is fundamental to investigations and compliance. Professionals must never alter, selectively omit, or destroy logs and artifacts relevant to incidents. Doing so undermines legal defensibility and professional credibility. In cloud, where logs are abundant and complex, the temptation may exist to simplify narratives or conceal errors. Ethical responsibility rejects this temptation. Evidence must remain intact, with chain of custody preserved, even if findings are unfavorable. It is like maintaining honesty in financial audits. Selective omission is fraud, not diligence. Courts, regulators, and stakeholders expect complete accuracy. Evidence integrity demonstrates that professionalism prioritizes truth, even when inconvenient. Altering or hiding evidence erodes not only cases but also the profession's trustworthiness. Ethical professionals uphold this standard unwaveringly, recognizing that credibility once lost is rarely regained. Ethical escalation requires professionals to raise concerns when asked to violate law, policy, or professional standards. This may involve declining assignments, documenting objections, or reporting issues through proper channels. Escalation as difficult pressures from leadership or clients can be intense, yet failing to act compromises integrity and may create liability. Ethical escalation is like a pilot refusing to fly unsafe equipment. The short-term cost is outweighed by long-term responsibility. In cloud, escalation may mean refusing to deploy insecure architectures or objecting to concealment of breaches. Professionals must document rationale, ensuring concerns are visible and defensible. Escalation is not obstruction, it is stewardship. By upholding ethical standards even under pressure, professionals protect organizations from greater harm and demonstrate the courage that defines true professionalism. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Whistleblowing considerations come into play when internal escalation fails and severe risks persist. Professionals may face situations where leadership ignores or suppresses critical concerns, leaving unsafe practices unaddressed. Whistleblowing involves reporting externally, often to regulators or oversight bodies, when organizational channels prove ineffective. Ethical practice requires weighing the gravity of harm, legal protections, and the completeness of documentation before proceeding. It is like pulling an emergency brake on a train, disruptive but necessary when safety is at stake. In cloud security, whistleblowing might arise if providers knowingly conceal breaches or misuse personal data. Protections vary by jurisdiction, but professionals must prepare for personal and professional risks. Documentation strengthens defensibility, showing concerns were genuine and responsibly raised. Whistleblowing is a last resort, not a casual choice, but it reinforces the profession's duty to safeguard society above organizational convenience. Communication ethics demand truthfulness and timeliness in breach and incident notifications. Regulations like GDPR and CCPA already impose legal duties, but ethical responsibility extends beyond compliance. Stakeholders deserve accurate information to make informed decisions, whether they are customers, partners, or regulators. Concealing or minimizing the extent of incidents undermines trust and may worsen harm. For example, delaying notification of a cloud storage breach could expose individuals to prolonged identity theft risks. Ethical communication is like honesty in medicine. Patients cannot manage their health without full disclosure. In security, timely and truthful communication demonstrates accountability, even when the news is unfavorable. It positions the organization as responsible and transparent, reinforcing long-term trust. Professionals must resist pressure to spin or withhold information, recognizing that credibility is the most valuable currency in cybersecurity. Risk acceptance ethics emphasize transparency and accountability. Accepting residual risk is legitimate, but it must be documented with clear rationale, identified owners, and defined reconsideration triggers. Too often, risks are informally ignored rather than responsibly accepted, leaving organizations vulnerable and stakeholders uninformed. Ethical practice requires showing why acceptance is reasonable, whether due to cost-benefit analysis, technical infeasibility, or temporary constraints. It is like disclosing medical side effects before choosing a treatment. Informed consent matters. In cloud security, risk acceptance might involve using a provider with known gaps while compensating controls are implemented. Ethical governance demands honesty in these decisions, preventing acceptance from becoming neglect. Professionals reinforce integrity by ensuring risk acceptance is deliberate, visible, and reviewed regularly. This approach balances pragmatism with accountability, preserving trust while managing unavoidable uncertainty. Secure by design ethics prioritize user safety and resilience above short-term delivery pressures. Too often, teams rush deployments to meet deadlines or reduce costs, neglecting safeguards. Ethical responsibility dictates that security be embedded from the start, not bolted on later. For example, enabling encryption, multi-factor authentication, and logging at launch should be non-negotiable. Secure by design is like building cars with seatbelts and airbags included, not optional upgrades. Cloud professionals must resist shortcuts that jeopardize users, even when leadership emphasizes speed. Ethical maturity lies in recognizing that insecure systems harm not only customers, but also organizational reputation. By upholding secure by design principles, professionals prove that protecting people is not an afterthought but a foundational commitment. This ethic transforms resilience from a feature into a moral responsibility, reinforcing trust in both technology and those who build it. Access stewardship reflects ethical responsibility in handling privileged credentials and administrative capabilities. With great access comes great potential for misuse, whether accidental or intentional. Ethical professionals apply least privilege, monitor usage, and accept elevation only when necessary and authorized. For instance, a cloud administrator should use break glass accounts sparingly and document justification. Access stewardship is like safeguarding master keys in a building. Misuse could unlock every door, so protections must be strong. Ethical lapses here often lead to the most severe breaches, since insider misuse or negligence bypasses external defenses. By practicing discipline in access, professionals demonstrate respect for the trust placed in them. Stewardship turns privilege into responsibility, ensuring power is exercised with caution, transparency, and accountability. Testing boundaries are another area where ethics intersect with professionalism. Security testing must occur with written authorization, clearly defined scope, and safeguards to prevent unintended damage. Unauthorized penetration testing, even if well-intentioned, violates ethical duties and may constitute unlawful access. In cloud, boundaries are particularly sensitive because shared environments magnify risks. For example, an unapproved scan of a provider's infrastructure could disrupt other tenants. Ethical professionalism requires respecting boundaries, seeking approvals, and documenting methods. This is like a doctor performing procedures only with patient consent. Skills must be exercised responsibly. Testing within agreed rules ensures findings are credible, defensible, and constructive. Violating boundaries erodes trust, harms organizations, and tarnishes the profession. Ethical security testing proves that expertise is applied for defense, not reckless experimentation. AI and automation ethics are increasingly relevant as organizations integrate machine learning and autonomous tools into cloud operations. Ethical responsibilities include transparency, auditability, privacy safeguards, and human oversight. For example, if an AI-based system blocks user access, professionals must ensure appeal and review mechanisms exist. Automation must not become opaque or unchallengeable. This is like autopilot in aviation. It increases efficiency but always requires pilot oversight. AI decisions impacting rights, privacy, or security must be explainable and fair. Ethical cloud professionals design systems that respect individual dignity while harnessing automation's power. Neglecting these responsibilities risks embedding bias, errors, or overreach into critical systems. By treating AI as an augmentation, not a replacement, for ethical judgment, professionals maintain accountability while responsibly advancing technology. Cultural and inclusion awareness is an ethical obligation in professional practice. Cloud security teams are diverse, spanning geographies, genders, and disciplines. Professionals must foster environments that respect collaboration, mentorship, and equitable access to opportunities. Discrimination, exclusion, or bias undermines not only individuals but also team effectiveness. Ethical maturity demands awareness of cultural differences and active inclusivity. For example, ensuring that training, promotion, and communication are accessible across languages and time zones demonstrates respect. Inclusion is like good encryption. It protects everyone equally, strengthening overall resilience. By modeling fairness and mentorship, professionals contribute to the growth of the field, proving ethics is not limited to technical choices but extends to human relationships. Inclusivity builds trust, strengthens teams, and reflects the profession's broader responsibility to society. Remote and hybrid professionalism highlights the ethical challenges of distributed work. Professionals must maintain secure work practices, protect confidential data, and separate personal from client information. Using unsecured networks, sharing devices, or storing data improperly undermines trust. Ethical practice demands vigilance, such as using VPNs, encrypted storage, and secure collaboration tools. Remote professionalism is like working in an office with glass walls. Discipline ensures privacy is preserved despite visible risks. Cloud professionals must also balance availability with boundaries, respecting work-life balance without compromising responsibilities. By modeling secure and respectful practices in remote environments, professionals show that ethics adapts to modern realities. This reinforces trust, proving that professionalism transcends physical settings and remains constant across geographies and contexts. Records and timekeeping accuracy may seem mundane, but are central to professionalism. Inaccurate billing, falsified timesheets, or manipulated retention undermine trust and may constitute fraud. In cloud, accurate records ensure accountability for services rendered, compliance with contracts, and defensibility in audits. Ethical professionals treat records with integrity, ensuring they reflect actual effort and outcomes. This is like keeping honest medical charts. Patients' lives depend on accuracy. Timekeeping also ensures transparency with clients and employers, reinforcing fairness. Misrepresentations may yield short-term gain but destroy long-term credibility. By maintaining disciplined, truthful records, professionals demonstrate respect for obligations, customers, and the profession itself. Ethical accuracy in these areas is not clerical. It is foundational to trust in professional services. Professional representation governs how individuals present themselves and their qualifications. Ethical practice prohibits resume inflation, misuse of certifications, or dishonest exam behavior. Claiming expertise or credentials not earned undermines credibility for the individual and the profession. In cloud security, where trust in skills is critical, misrepresentation can cause direct harm. For example, an unqualified professional managing encryption may introduce catastrophic errors. Ethical standards demand honesty in self-presentation, acknowledging both achievements and limits. This is like licensing in medicine. Claiming surgeon status without training is unthinkable. By respecting certification processes, exam integrity, and truthful resumes, professionals uphold the credibility of the entire field. Misrepresentation is more than dishonesty. It is a betrayal of trust. Third-party governance ethics apply when evaluating vendors or service providers. Professionals must conduct due diligence fairly, apply proportional requirements, and monitor consistently without favoritism. Steering contracts toward preferred vendors for personal reasons or overlooking deficiencies for convenience violates ethical obligations. Vendor governance is like refereeing. Standards must be applied equally, or the game loses credibility. In cloud, where organizations depend heavily on providers, biased oversight creates systemic risks. Ethical governance ensures procurement and monitoring reflect organizational interests, not personal agendas. It also reinforces trust with stakeholders, who expect vendor evaluations to be impartial and defensible. By applying standards evenly, professionals sustain both security and integrity in extended ecosystems. Exit and transition ethics govern how professionals leave roles or projects. Responsible departure includes orderly handover, return of keys and data, and avoidance of sabotage or withholding. Professionals must ensure continuity even when relationships end. For example, departing administrators must document procedures and revoke their own access. Exit ethics are like leaving a house rental. Return it clean and secure, with all keys returned. In cloud, unethical exits, such as deleting data, retaining secrets, or obstructing transitions, cause significant harm. Ethical professionals recognize that duty extends beyond tenure, ensuring clients and employers remain protected. Exit maturity demonstrates integrity, proving that professionalism is not situational but consistent, even in times of change or departure. Global operations ethics recognize the complexities of working across jurisdictions. Professionals must respect differences in laws, regulations, and cultural practices, while upholding universal principles of human rights and lawful access. For example, a provider may face government requests for data that conflict with international obligations. Ethical practice requires careful balancing, ensuring compliance without enabling harm or oppression. Global operations ethics are like navigation in international waters. Respect for sovereignty matters, but fundamental human dignity must remain central. In cloud, where services span borders, professionals must anticipate conflicts and design safeguards. This global awareness elevates professionalism, ensuring decisions remain lawful, ethical, and defensible under scrutiny. From an exam perspective, ethics and professionalism topics emphasize mapping codes of conduct, conflicts of interest, disclosure duties, and duty of care to real-world cloud security scenarios. Candidates may be asked how to handle conflicts, respond to unethical requests, or apply disclosure obligations. Exam relevance highlights reasoning, understanding why duty of care matters, why integrity forbids altering evidence, or why conflict disclosure builds trust. Success requires recognizing ethical dilemmas and applying professional standards to resolve them responsibly. Ethics questions are less about memorization and more about demonstrating maturity and judgment under pressure. Candidates who master this perspective show readiness to represent the profession honorably, balancing technical skill with the integrity that sustains trust. In conclusion, steadfast integrity, managed conflicts, and a documented duty of care sustain trust in cloud security. Professional ethics extend beyond legal minimums, guiding decisions through codes of conduct, honesty, and accountability. Confidentiality, objectivity, and respect for intellectual property reinforce responsibility, while disclosure, fair dealing, and inclusivity strengthen trust across relationships. In emerging domains like AI and automation, ethics ensure transparency, human oversight, and proportional safeguards. By embedding professionalism into every action, from records to exits, cloud practitioners prove that security is not only technical, but also moral. Ethics transforms cybersecurity from a function into a profession, ensuring stakeholders rely on practitioners not just for their skills, but for their integrity, judgment, and care. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.